The UNRS Mercy cut through the darkness of deep space, its white hull adorned with pulsing blue emergency lights that had become a symbol of hope across 3 sectors of known space. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her reflection ghosting against the stars as she contemplated their latest mission. 15 years of rescue operations had taught her to trust her instincts, and something about this call felt wrong. "Multiple distress signatures detected," announced Lieutenant Marcus Wong from his sensor station, reading at least 3 vessels, all showing critical system failures. "But Commander," he frowned at his display, "the emission patterns are unusually uniform." Sarah nodded, having expected something like this. In the past month, 6 rescue ships had gone missing in this sector. Earth Central Command had dismissed it as a string of unfortunate accidents. Space was dangerous after all. But Sarah had known most of those captains. They weren't the type to make rookie mistakes. "Take us in slowly," she ordered. "Full passive scans. And Marcus, run those distress signatures through the new pattern recognition system." The Mercy glided forward, its massive medical bays ready to receive whatever casualties they might find. At nearly a kilometer long, the vessel represented humanity's finest achievement in space-based emergency response. Capable of treating thousands of patients from dozens of species, it was a floating city dedicated to saving lives. "Commander, getting preliminary results," Marcus reported. "The signals, they're perfect, too perfect. Natural degradation should show at least some variance, but these are identical down to the quantum level." Sarah's hand tightened on the railing. "Tactical, full sweep of the area. Something's orchestrating this." The response came too late. Multiple ships materialized from what had appeared to be empty space, their hulls covered in a material that bent light around them like oil on water. They weren't the source of the distress calls. They were waiting for them. "Incoming transmission," called out Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka. "Text only. It reads, 'Your ship is now under our control. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction.'" Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Whoever these attackers were, they had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they had revealed their existence by targeting rescue ships. Second, they had demonstrated a pattern that could be studied. And third, most importantly, they had gravely underestimated humanity's ability to protect what it valued most. "All hands," Sarah announced shipwide, her voice steady. "Initiate Protocol Phoenix." The bridge crew moved with practiced precision, activating systems that had been hidden beneath the Mercy's humanitarian exterior. The attackers had clearly studied human rescue vessels, learning their capabilities and standard responses. But they hadn't discovered what Earth had quietly installed after the first ships went missing. "Multiple weapons locked on our position," Tactical reported. "They're charging." The hostile ships fired simultaneously, energy beams converging on the Mercy's position. But instead of impacting the supposedly defenseless rescue vessel, they passed through it harmlessly. The holographic projection of the Mercy flickered and vanished, revealing empty space. "Target their propulsion systems," Sarah commanded as the real Mercy decloaked directly behind the largest attacker. "Minimal force. We're still a rescue ship. We'll just be rescuing them from their own poor decisions." The Mercy's response was surgical. Concentrated electromagnetic pulses disabled the hostile ship's engines without causing catastrophic damage. As the attackers' vessels began to drift, their weapons powerless, Sarah opened a channel to all ships. "This is Commander Chen of the United Nations Rescue Ship Mercy. Your vessels are disabled but intact. We are detecting multiple systems failures that require immediate medical attention. As per our mission protocols, we are obligated to render assistance to all ships in distress, including those that recently attempted to attack us. Please prepare your wounded for transfer. And perhaps during treatment, we can discuss why you've been targeting rescue vessels." As her medical teams prepared for their unexpected patients, Sarah sent a priority message to Earth Command. The mystery of the missing ships was solved, but a larger question remained. What had driven these beings to such desperate measures? The answer, she suspected, would prove far more complex than simple piracy. The Mercy's original mission had been diverted, but its purpose remained unchanged. They would solve this mystery as they did all others, by helping those in need, even if those people had just tried to destroy them. Because that was what rescue ships did, and no amount of threats would change humanity's commitment to saving lives. In the medical bay, Dr. James Martinez supervised the preparation of treatment rooms designed for a dozen different species. They had no idea what kind of beings they would be treating, but that had never stopped them before. As the first shuttle prepared to dock with their attackers' vessels, he couldn't help but appreciate the irony. They had come to spring a trap, only to find themselves in need of the very help they had tried to prevent others from receiving. The beings from the attacking vessels lay in the Mercy's advanced medical bay, their crystalline bodies refracting the soft blue light of the recovery pods. Commander Chen stood with Dr. Martinez, studying their unexpected patients through the observation window. The aliens, who called themselves the Vex, were silicon-based life forms that seemed to have evolved in the high-pressure depths of gas-giant oceans. Their bodies are riddled with radiation damage, Martinez explained, gesturing to the detailed holographic scans floating between them. But it's not from weapons fire or industrial accidents. This is systematic exposure over years, maybe decades. They're dying, Sarah. Their entire species. Sarah watched as medical nanites swarmed through the crystalline matrices of the Vex bodies, repairing damage that went far deeper than physical structure. That explains the attacks on rescue ships. They're desperate. Not just desperate, came a resonant voice from behind them. Sarah turned to find Professor Amara Singh, the Mercy's xenolinguist, approaching with a tablet full of translated communications. They're trying to save everyone else too. The professor's dark eyes were wide with concern as she shared what she'd learned. The Vex weren't pirates or raiders. They were themselves a rescue species, one that had dedicated their civilization to helping others just as humanity had. But their home system had encountered something that changed everything. They call it the darkness between, Amara explained, bringing up astronomical data. A massive region of space that's simply empty. No radiation, no quantum fluctuations, not even background cosmic noise. It's spreading, consuming everything in its path. The Vex have been trying to evacuate species in its path, but they're running out of time and resources. So they started targeting our rescue ships, Sarah concluded, not to destroy them, but to study our medical technology, to find better ways to save people. She shook her head, amazed at how the universe could create such parallel evolution. Two species, both dedicated to helping others, driven to conflict by that very dedication. The ship's AI, joined the conversation through the medical bay's speakers. Commander, I've completed analysis of the Vex data cores they allowed us to access. Their technology is remarkable, particularly their ability to create pocket dimensions for emergency evacuation. But the power requirements are destroying their bodies. Each rescue operation costs them years of life. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. Humanity had developed its own solutions to mass evacuation, focusing on fleet coordination and efficiency rather than dimensional manipulation. If they combine their approaches. Dr. Martinez, how soon can our patients communicate safely? The doctor consulted his medical displays. The radiation damage is severe, but our nanites are adapting well to their crystalline structure. A few hours at most. Good. Professor Singh, I want you there when they wake up. Not as an interpreter, but as a diplomat. We're going to offer them a partnership. Sarah turned to face her senior staff, her expression determined. Earth Command needs to know about this darkness between, but more importantly, they need to understand we've just found allies who share our most fundamental values. Over the next several days, as the Vex recovered, the true scope of the crisis became clear. The darkness between wasn't just consuming space, it was erasing it, leaving nothing behind. Hundreds of civilizations lay in its path, most lacking the technology for interstellar travel. The Vex had been fighting a losing battle, trying to save as many as they could before their own bodies gave out. But where the Vex saw only desperation, Sarah saw opportunity. Humanity's rescue fleet was vast, with ships stationed throughout known space. They had perfected the logistics of large-scale evacuation operations, developed medical techniques for thousands of species, and most importantly, they had built their entire space program around the principle of helping others. In her quarters, Sarah composed her report to Earth Command. The words flowed easily because the truth was simple. Humanity had just discovered it wasn't alone in its dedication to saving lives. The Vex had attacked out of desperation, but in doing so, they had given humanity something precious: the chance to prove that compassion wasn't a weakness, even in the face of universal apocalypse. As she finished her report, Sarah received notification that the first Vex was ready to speak with her. She made her way back to medical, where a crystalline being pulsed with soft light in greeting. Through Professor Singh's translation matrix, the Vex expressed not just gratitude for the medical care, but shame at their actions. "We became what we fought against," the Vex communicated, its crystalline structure resonating with regret. "In our desperation to save others, we forgot why we chose to become rescuers in the first place." Sarah stepped closer to the recovery pod. "Then let's remind ourselves together. Your people know how to create space where none exists. We know how to fill that space with hope. I think it's time we showed the universe what happens when those who help others decide to help each other." The Vex's crystalline body pulsed with new intensity, their equivalent of a smile, Professor Singh had explained. Together, they began planning not just a rescue mission, but a revolution in how species could work together to face the impossible. The darkness between was coming, but it would find something unexpected in its path. Two civilizations of healers, united in their determination to prove that saving others was the highest form of strength. The UNRS Mercy hung in orbit around Europa Station, its familiar white hull now adorned with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. In the ship's newly modified conference room, Commander Sarah Chen sat across from Resonator First Light, the ranking Vex official, as they reviewed the latest data on the darkness between's advance. 3 more systems gone in the past week, Sarah noted, studying the holographic map between them. The void wasn't just expanding, it was accelerating. At this rate, it'll reach the Centauric colonies in 8 months. First Light's crystalline form vibrated in a pattern that the translation matrix rendered as deep concern. The physics make no sense. Space itself isn't just empty in these regions, it's as if it never existed at all. Our dimensional pocket technology barely functions at the edges of the phenomenon. Dr. Martinez entered the conference room, bringing up his own set of holographic displays. "We've finished analyzing the biological samples from the edge of the void. There's something you both need to see." He expanded an image of cellular structures, both organic and crystalline. "These aren't just dead cells. They're incomplete, as if parts of their fundamental structure simply ceased to be." The implications were staggering. The darkness between wasn't just destroying space, it was unmaking reality itself, piece by piece. Sarah watched as First Light processed this information, the Vex's crystalline structure dimming slightly, and what she had learned was their expression of deep thought. "Commander," Air-I interrupted, her voice carrying unusual urgency. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships emerging from the void's edge. Configuration unknown, but they're pushing it back." The conference room's main display shifted to show a remarkable sight. A fleet of vessels unlike anything they'd seen before was literally forcing the darkness between to retreat, creating a bubble of normal space around them. But the ships themselves seemed to be deteriorating even as they fought against the void. "Those are predecessor vessels," First Light resonated, their whole form brightening with recognition. "We thought they were myths, the species that taught us dimensional engineering before vanishing into the deep black." Sarah was already moving. "All hands, battle stations. Not because we're looking for a fight, but because something tells me those ships need immediate assistance. Dr. Martinez, prepare all medical bays. Professor Singh, get ready to establish communication. First Light, we could use your expertise on dimensional mechanics. The Mercy accelerated toward the unknown fleet, its enhanced engines pushing it faster than any rescue ship had gone before. As they approached, their sensors revealed the true state of the predecessor vessels. They were literally coming apart at the quantum level, their crews fighting to maintain existence itself. Multiple distress signals detected, Marcus reported from his station. But these are real, chaotic, desperate, exactly what we'd expect from ships in genuine crisis. Sarah opened a channel to the approaching fleet. This is Commander Chen of the UNRS Mercy. We're picking up your distress calls and are here to render assistance. Please respond. For long moments, there was only static. Then a voice unlike anything they'd ever heard echoed through the bridge. Not sound, but pure consciousness translated into communication. The children of Terra come, as the prophecy said, and they bring with them the crystal singers we uplifted. Perhaps there is hope after all. The predecessor ships were massive, easily dwarfing the Mercy, but they were failing fast. As Sarah coordinated with First Light and her medical teams, she began to understand what they were seeing. The predecessors hadn't vanished. They'd been fighting, holding back the darkness between for millennia, using their mastery of dimensional engineering to preserve reality itself. But they were losing. Each victory against the void came at a terrible cost, erasing pieces of themselves that could never be recovered. They had been searching for species with the right combination of traits, humanity's adaptability and determination, the Vex's understanding of dimensional mechanics. Not to take over the fight, but to find a new way to win it. As the first predecessor was evacuated to the Mercy's medical bay, its crew existing in a state between matter and energy, Sarah realized they hadn't just found new allies. They had found the architects of a plan centuries in the making, one that required the combined strengths of multiple civilizations. The darkness between wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a weapon, launched by beings from another reality who saw our universe as nothing but territory to be conquered. The predecessors had discovered this truth too late to stop it directly, but not too late to set in motion a chain of events that would bring together the species capable of finding another solution. In the Mercy's modified medical bay, human doctors worked alongside Vex healers to stabilize the predecessor crew, their different approaches to medicine combining in ways neither species had imagined possible. Sarah watched through the observation window, her mind racing with implications. They guided our evolution. First Light resonated softly, both of our species, not directly, but by creating conditions that would lead us to develop exactly the traits needed for this moment. Sarah nodded, understanding at last why the Vex had been driven to attack rescue ships, why humanity's compassion had proven stronger than aggression. It hadn't been random chance. It had been preparation for a war unlike any their universe had faced before. Then let's prove they chose correctly, she said, turning to her alien counterpart. The predecessors spent eons buying us time to find a different answer. I think it's time we showed them what their children can do. The crystalline being pulsed in agreement, and together they began planning humanity's most ambitious rescue mission yet, saving reality itself. The Mercy's modified bridge hummed with activity as human, Vex, and predecessor crews worked in seamless coordination. Through the main viewport, the darkness between loomed like an impossibly black curtain drawn across the stars. Sarah stood at the central command station, reviewing the data from their latest probe. The void isn't just consuming space. The predecessor known as eternal memory projected directly into their minds. Its form shifted between states of matter like a quantum uncertainty made visible. It's overriding our universe's fundamental constants with those of another reality, a reality hostile to all forms of life as we know it. Dr. Martinez's hologram appeared at the conference table, transmitted from the research lab 20 decks below. We've confirmed it. The cellular degradation we're seeing isn't death. It's translation. The void is trying to convert our universe's physical laws to match its origin point, which means it can be resisted. First light resonated, their crystalline structure briefly reflecting the impossible darkness outside. The predecessors have proven that by holding it back for so long. But defense isn't enough. We need to push back. Sarah studied the combined fleet assembled around the Mercy. Hundreds of ships, human rescue vessels retrofitted with Vex dimensional technology, crystalline ships powered by human engineering, and the remaining predecessor vessels, each one a testament to the power of cooperation. But more importantly, each one a symbol of their shared commitment to preserving life. "Show me the void's expansion pattern again," she requested. Auraria compiled the data from all 3 species sensors, creating a 4-dimensional map of the darkness between's advance. Sarah watched it carefully, her eyes narrowing. "There, do you see it?" The others gathered around the display. The void's expansion wasn't uniform. It followed patterns, like water flowing through cracks in reality. "It's following paths of least resistance," First Light observed, "like any invasion force." "Exactly," Sarah said. "We've been thinking about this wrong. We're not fighting a natural phenomenon. We're fighting a siege weapon. And siege weapons have engineers." She turned to eternal memory. "Your people have been holding the line for thousands of years. Did you ever try to communicate with what's on the other side?" The predecessor's form rippled with what might have been surprise. Communication would be impossible. The physics of their reality are incompatible with. It stopped, understanding dawning. Unless we created a space between. A dimensional pocket, First Light resonated excitedly. Not fully in either reality. A negotiation space. More than that, Sarah added. A rescue mission. Think about it. What if these beings aren't invading? What if they're fleeing something in their own universe? They're using the only tools they have, trying to make our reality habitable for them, not understanding or caring about the cost to us. The theory sparked intense discussion among the gathered species. The Vex contributed their understanding of dimensional engineering, the predecessors their eons of observations, and humanity its greatest strength, the ability to see those who caused harm as potentially in need of help themselves. In the research lab, Dr. Martins led a combined team in developing what they called a universal translation matrix, not for language, but for physics itself. The Vex's dimensional pockets would create a space where both realities could safely exist, while human medical technology would protect the occupants and predecessor knowledge would stabilize the intersection. "We're receiving new data from the void's edge," Marcus reported. "The expansion rate is increasing, but it's also changing pattern, almost like it's responding to us." Sarah finished. "They know we're here, and they're curious." First Light's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "Or threatened. We're the first to do more than just fight back." Sarah nodded, making her decision. "Then let's show them something they've never seen before. How do you say we want to help in the language of physics?" The next hours were a blur of activity as the combined fleet positioned itself in a precise formation. The Mercy took point, its medical bays prepared for patients whose very existence might defy their understanding of life. The Vex ships created a network of dimensional pockets, carefully engineered to support multiple physical constants. The predecessor vessels used their ancient knowledge to stabilize the impossible space between realities. As they made their final preparations, Sarah addressed the combined fleet. Throughout history, first contact scenarios have often been marked by fear, misunderstanding, and conflict. But we're not just explorers or warriors, we're rescuers. Every being in this fleet has dedicated their existence to helping others. Today, we attempt the greatest rescue mission in the history of any universe. Whatever comes through that void, remember, they're not our enemy until they prove otherwise. They're potentially patients who don't yet know they need our help. The void rippled before them, responding to their preparations. Something was coming through, something that would either confirm their hopes or their fears. But for the first time since the darkness between appeared, 3 species united in purpose stood ready not to fight, but to help. Sarah gave the final command. Begin Operation Lighthouse. Operation Lighthouse began with a pulse of energy that rippled across multiple dimensions. The combined fleet held position as the Mercy's modified sensors detected movement within the void. Through the dimensional pocket they created, something vast began to take shape. Not ships or beings, but reality itself trying to make contact. Multiple signatures emerging, Marcus reported, his hand steady on the sensor controls. They're trying to match our physical constants, attempting to communicate. The void rippled again, and this time, patterns of energy coalesced into forms that defied conventional description. The beings from the other reality appeared as shifting matrices of light and darkness, their very existence challenging the laws of physics. But thanks to the dimensional pocket created by their combined technology, they could exist, however briefly, in a space where both realities could touch. We're receiving data, Professor Singh announced, her translation matrix working overtime to decode information transmitted through quantum fluctuations. They're asking who we are. More than that, they're asking how we created this space. Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. This is Commander Chen of the United Nations Rescue Ship Mercy. We represent a coalition of species dedicated to preserving life in all its forms. We've created this space to understand why you're converting our universe and to offer assistance if you need it. The response came not in words, but in pure concepts, translated through the combined efforts of all three species' technology. The beings, who existed in a universe slowly collapsing in on itself, had been searching for a new home. Their method of conversion was the only way they knew to survive, not understanding that it meant death for everything in our reality. Show them, Sarah commanded. The Mercy's medical bay activated, displaying its capacity to heal and preserve life forms from thousands of different species. The Vex demonstrated their mastery of creating sustainable pocket dimensions. The predecessors revealed their ancient knowledge of universal constants and how they could be manipulated without being destroyed. We don't have to overwrite each other's existence, Sarah projected through the translation matrix. Together, we can create spaces where both our realities can coexist. We can help you survive without destroying everything we are. For a moment, the void seemed to pulse with uncertainty. Then, remarkably, it began to retreat. Not in fear or defeat, but in understanding. The beings from the other reality had never encountered species who would offer help to those who had unknowingly caused them harm. Over the next several hours, the combined fleet worked with the transdimensional beings to establish permanent junction points, spaces where both realities could safely interact. The Vex's dimensional engineering, human medical science, and predecessor knowledge came together to create something entirely new. Bridges between universes that preserved rather than destroyed. In the Mercy's conference room, Sarah sat with representatives from all four species, human, Vex, predecessor, and now the beings they called the Bridges. Through their combined translation technology, they began planning not just survival, but cooperation between realities. We became rescuers, Sarah explained to the Bridge representative, because we understood that strength lies not in conquest, but in preservation. Your reality is dying, but that doesn't mean ours has to die to save you. We can save both. The Bridge beam pulsed with what the translators interpreted as profound relief and gratitude. They had spent eons believing their only choice was to convert or die. The concept of cooperation, of mutual preservation, was revolutionary to them. First Light's crystalline form resonated with pride. This is why the predecessors guided our evolution. Not to fight a war, but to find a way to prevent one. To prove that compassion can solve problems that force never could. Eternal Memory shifted its quantum state in agreement. We saw the potential in both your species, humanity's drive to help others even at great cost to themselves, and the Vex's dedication to preserving life through technological innovation. Together, you've done what we could not. Found a way to save everyone. As the void retreated from known space, replaced by a network of junction points, where realities could safely intersect. Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. What had started as attacks on rescue ships had led to the greatest rescue mission in history, saving not just lives or species, but entire universes. The Mercy's original mission had been to help those in need, wherever they might be found. Now that mission had expanded beyond anything its designers could have imagined. But its fundamental purpose remained unchanged: to prove that the strongest force in any universe was the willingness to help others, even those who might seem to be enemies. As the combined fleet began its journey home, Sarah sent a final message to Earth Command. The darkness between is no longer a threat. Instead, it's become a frontier, not of conquest or conflict, but of cooperation. We went looking for those who needed rescue, and in doing so, we rescued ourselves. This is Commander Chen of the UNRS Mercy, reporting mission accomplished. The stars shone brighter somehow, as if celebrating the dawn of a new era where different realities could coexist through understanding and mutual aid. The Mercy led the fleet home, its white hull still bearing the universal symbol of rescue and aid, now recognized across dimensions as a sign of hope.